think that's a good thing.
Yeah. Ooh, let me check one thing here. Yeah. Oh, I'm super solid. Super salad. All right, friends, we're here with the North Spore friends on set, and we're about to go live. Go check out North Spore. Let's run it.
Cool. If you guys just want to get started, feel free to introduce yourselves and open up the discussion.
I'm Kate. I've been on the live stream once before. I am the lab manager at North Spore, and I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. I'm John. I'm one of the founders of North Spore, and then I also, out of the founders, have a mycology background, and I'm excited to be here and talking to William here.
I'm Will. I'm a nerd, and I'm up here hanging out in Maine, vibing, meeting new people, networking, and having lots of fun.
What's up, guys? I'm Louie. I've worked for North Spore for about 4 years now. I run a lot of our events, our foraging classes, cultivation classes, and I'm on the production team. So it's super cool to have William Padilla-Brown with us today, man. It's super.
And you go by Will.
Yeah, Will. Yeah. I don't have to.
I feel like I usually associate like your whole name. It's like a funny.
Like, has anybody told you that sometimes like there's certain people you meet that like their name you feel like you have to say the whole name.
Yeah.
It's like kind of that name.
William
But it's a great name.
Thank you.
But so what other things are you up to here in Maine?
Alright, so since I've been here, you guys were my first stop. We did some cool video stuff here. And then I went up to my buddy's farm, Hidden Forest Soil Company, where we hung out, by Damariscotta Lake with the family and visited a couple, touristy things around Booth Bay. Yeah. And then I stayed up through last night pretty much, doing DNA extraction and amplification of genes associated with male or female sex traits in cannabis plants, to be able to determine sex in cannabis before flowering, so you don't have to waste money feeding or watering male plants. So that's what I was doing up here, and developing protocol to make it more accessible for other farmers around the country and on a small scale. For anybody that wants to do it, if they're doing breeding projects, don't want to be wasting money. Also, like, plant counts are a big deal in the United States. Like, you're only allowed a certain amount, so you don't want to be wasting your plant count on males if you don't have to. And then I want to eventually expand the protocol. So I was just here to do experiments with cannabis stuff and work on figuring out some more things for other farmers.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Yeah, I just as an introduction. I feel like you're very well known in the mushroom community, but I bet you there's some folks that kind of follow us that maybe haven't heard of you before. So maybe if you just wanted to say like what mycosymbiotics is about and kind of that part of your background as well.
Sweet, yeah. Mycosymbiotics is an environmental research business focused on implementing different aspects of nature for ecological restoration and economical restoration as well. So it's we're working with different mushrooms and plants and things like that to regenerate our ecosystems and make sure that we can put some money in our pockets at the same time. So it started out a lot with mushrooms. Well, I can't say it started with mushrooms. It started with everything I do right now, but mushrooms is what I recognized was trending. Like, once I started getting on the internet back in like 2014, 2015, all my mushroom videos, like, I was getting like 100 views or anything like that. Were always like more than everything else, like, because I was still doing like algae and insects and all that kind of stuff. So we do study algae, insects, so we do molecular biology, and then we contract ourselves off to other laboratories. And a lot of my team back home is more mycological oriented, and they're working on developing protocol for cultivation of Echinoderma resinosum right now. And what else do we have on the plate? Wolfiporia, but we don't know the exact species yet. But it does have a lot of potential. So
Is that for medicinal compounds that you're working on the cultivation?
no, we're working on edibles too. So Echinoderma
Okay.
is more for edible. I mean, I'm sure it has
Okay.
medicinal
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
but
I found that a couple times.
yeah. Have you eaten it before?
No, I haven't eaten
yeah,
it.
I
Is
haven't
it-
eaten
Do you
it
really
either.
like it?
Yeah, it's but you got to get it soft though. If you don't
Yeah.
get it soft, it's like too tough to eat. It's undesirable. But when it's soft, it's like the fatty edge of like a skirt steak. You
Wow.
put like
Is this
sounds real
is it
good,
a
yeah.
polypore?
Mhm.
Okay.
yeah, it
It's
comes
kind
out
of
in cold weather.
fluffy- It's like
What's
sort
the
of like a
common
fat,
name?
fluffy
Resonance
shelf.
polypore.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it drips like exudates out of it, and I'm sure it would do well out here with the temperature because it only grows in like late
Yeah,
fall.
we definitely we have a bunch
It's
of
not
them.
it's
I've
not
run into
super
it.
common. I mean, I've found it before,
Oh.
but not super common. I
Yeah,
found
I
it.
see
In
it a
I
fair
found a
amount.
huge tree covered in it in New York State or in Vermont.
Yeah, you just cut the little tips off. It grows back out. I figured it would do good for cultivation because it's like eating dead hardwoods. Simple,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And we got it cultivating midsummer outside. My buddy Justin with Myco Mecha mushrooms. He's been cultivating our culture outside.
Cool.
He got it like 10 days, a nice size like that you would sell to somebody for a
Mhm.
dinner.
In 10 days.
in 10 days.
Wow, that's good.
And then that's when it started to harden off. So like that whole
Mhm.
piece is soft enough that it's edible.
Oh, that's cool.
Wow.
Way
'Cause
more
I
than
know
you would get.
people
I'd love to
eat
try it.
young reishi too when they're tender like that,
Mhm.
but they're so small.
But the like the reishi to me is like bitter even
Yeah.
when it's like
Yeah.
Right.
soft.
Yeah.
The
I've
Echinoderma
only
is
tried
like
it once.
straight like steak fat. Just tastes like steak fat. You throw some taco
Okay.
seasoning on there, you're good to go. You put the little lime and
Nice.
corn tortilla.
Reishi, if you're gonna eat the young reishi and rather than like powdering it or whatever, you must have had a pretty sparse day foraging.
It was Kevin.
Yeah.
Ambitious to
Yeah.
just try.
Well, that's really cool. Those are some interesting species. I'd love to hear more about the algae and
The algae?
and like so this is spirulina. mostly?
It started out with spirulina. Well, actually, it started out with a lot. Whenever I started growing mushrooms and everything like that, I wanted to grow all of my own food, and I was really interested in like superfoods and like really nutritious foods because I didn't have as much access to like healthy foods where I was living.
Mhm.
I didn't know where the farmers were just at that time whenever because I tripped really really hard. I ate a lot of LSD and I just like woke up in Pennsylvania and I was like, whoa, where's all the good food for my body? Like
Yeah.
this is like fast food sucks, like all this kind of stuff. So I was like, whoa, what do I do? And I wanted the nutritious food and I started researching about nutrition and I went raw vegan because my body wasn't working. Like I'd been hospitalized multiple times for like stomach issues and stuff like that when I was younger, just because of my diet. American diet doesn't work for everybody. And
You've continued that diet, the raw
no,
vegan?
no.
Yeah.
But that was a good reset for me because like I had at the time I went raw vegan, I was 18 years of like fast food like multiple times a month, like the cheapest meat at the store, like the cheapest eggs at the store.
Right.
Like it didn't matter. Like my parents were raising a lot of kids. Like it wasn't like
Totally, yeah.
it was just what we did. So like. But like my body didn't agree with it, and everybody was so working so hard, caught up, didn't have time to like think about that aspect of
Yeah.
it. So like I had to figure it out for myself. So the raw vegan, like when I went raw vegan, it allowed me to like take out a lot of things from my diet and then slowly bring them back in. And then I was like, oh, that's made me feel that way, or
Right,
like
yeah.
this makes me feel that way. And then I mean for that same reason, everybody whenever I make these extracts and stuff like that, they're like, oh, what's the dose? What's the dose? And I'm like, my body is different than your body, and it's different than your body and your body. So like everything that we consume is going to affect every single one of us differently, and I recognized that at that point. But in doing that, I was like, oh, I want this spirulina, I want this superfood and that superfood, and I'm like, yo, it's like $20 for a bag of powder at the store. Like that's
Yeah.
ridiculous, but I want it.
Mhm.
So I was like, all right, somebody's growing it somewhere, I can grow it here. So I started looking on the internet, and when I started growing it, I started growing spirulina, Haematococcus, pluvalis, Nanochlorops gaditana, Chlorella vulgaris, and Dunaliella. And those are the 5, like, I'd say the 5 top algae species. Like, if you were to say, like, the 5 top mushrooms that, like 10 years ago, if you're like, what are the 5 top mushrooms that everybody's going to cultivate? You'd be like, oysters, like, lion's mane, reishi, shiitake. Like, if you were to say that about algae, it'd be those species.
Sure.
So I grabbed the 5 top ones that, like, had, economic viability, and I figured out how to grow them. And then at that same time, I was, like, stuck in doing small cultivation in little tents in my basement. And I had to figure out air exchange because I was like, I can't afford ducting. I literally couldn't even afford shelves. Like, I had my mushrooms hanging from strings from the ceiling, and so I was like, I can't afford ducting, but I have the algae already, and I have these bottles, and I was like, all right, if I can just vent the spores out so they don't go into my algae tanks, I can closed loop gas exchange. And I was like, I'm buying like a half ton of sawdust for like $5. I bought that carbon. I don't want to blow it out the window when the mushrooms start exhaling it. I paid for it, so I captured it with the with the algae, and then I ate it.
So, I think what's cool about both of those too is that you don't need like a traditional farm. Like, I think a lot of people want to grow their own food, and they're like, okay, first step, I need to get some land.
Yeah.
But with both mushrooms and algae, you can start in your basement and then expand out from there.
Yeah.
I have a question about that, some of the cannabis stuff. So in terms of doing the genetic work like you're doing to sex the plants, I know that there are a lot of places who are also getting more into like the plant tissue culture aspect of things to do similar things. I know that with the plant tissue culture, you can actually get rid of some of like potential problems. In terms of like viruses or whatever else, but how do you think those two things compare to one another? It seems like what you're doing is not as much of a process as the plant tissue culturing, and like potentially also
Well, they both could be like laborious, and I think that we're in this interesting time with like micro and molecular biology where we understand concepts, but the tools are still bulky.
Sure.
Like, and I think that we're still like, oh, this is so new that we don't even realize that the tools and the processes are still bulky. So we're still like, figuring out I think people like my son and his generation, from seeing us do this and having that forward-thinking vision, are going to be like, oh, if we just cut this out and cut that out, but we just don't even realize right now because we're in the processes of the evolution of it. So I think that both of them are semi-laborious, and it also depends on your like how much skills you have coming to the table, because like molecular biology and like tissue culture work is not just like, oh, I'm going to watch a YouTube video and learn how to grow a plant, or I'm going to watch a YouTube video and learn how to grow oyster mushrooms. It's a little bit more in depth, and it takes a little bit more passion and investment. I have a lot of people commenting on my stuff all day like, oh, how do you do this? How do you do that? And I'm like, if you're just going to ask this question and not put in the time to actually invest into it, like me answering your question is not going to get you anywhere, So I think that they're both going to become incredibly valuable and useful tools for farmers moving forward, because I see farming turning way more molecular and micro. Like, I think farmers are going to be way more farming the soil, and then the plants just do their own thing. But like understanding the interactions of the soil, which then goes into the molecular side. So like, aside from just doing the DNA sexing, I did that because it was the most economically viable thing for me to show people.
Sure.
Like I'm trying to do science for the people. I'm funded by the people. Like, people literally donate to me. So I can't just be doing some random science that's only like applicable to me or some like big company. Sure. Like, I need to be doing science that is beneficial for everybody, so that we can perpetuate this and everybody can grow together. So like, the next beneficial thing and the next logical step will be to understanding cryptic soil organisms that you can't see, you can't culture out of the soil. Like, we're only working with soil organisms that we know from being able to culture out of the soil, but there's organisms that will never ever live outside of the soil matrix. So like, but their DNA is in there, so like we can understand that through the molecular biology work, and I'm trying to get more people literate to that level so that we can build a community around it that's not just a bunch of collegiate academic people that are speaking a bunch of jargon. Like, I'm figuring out how to bring these words and the linguistic structures to like the homies. Like my homie like legit just stopped working at a burrito shop, and now he's doing molecular biology, and we both dropped out of high school.
Yeah.
Wow.
The
Yeah.
language thing is such a big part of that.
Mm-hmm.
That being a barrier, and there's so much just like specialized terms that, you know, they can be helpful in that they can be specific for something, but they can also kind of like impede your ability to share that understanding with people.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But yeah, so I mean, like, I'm super excited to move forward into this. Like, that's where like a lot of my attention is right now. Like, any big funding that we're getting for the lab or anything like that is like going right into like molecular stuff, like nanopore sequencing and nanopore sequencing. Really, that's it. Like, I know that the nanopore sequencer is everything I need. I don't need to be doing PCR. It's the future. Everybody's like, not everybody, but a lot of people don't understand why I'm so invested into this, and they don't understand the technology yet. But like, even the people in the company are starting to work with me because like we're realizing like, oh, they developed a tool that they didn't even know how to use whenever they made it. Like, we're developing the protocol as we speak. Like, I mean, I don't know. I could go on and on and on.
Can you explain it a little bit more for people? Yeah.
All right. So the nanopore sequencer by Oxford Nanopore, I personally believe is one of the most advanced pieces of technology that humans have ever created. It's a little cell that goes into an array. It's called a flow cell, and it's an array of nanopores. So there's a bunch of small, tiny pores on it that has a motor protein attached that pulls DNA into the little hole. And as the DNA goes through the hole, the different nucleobases have different sizes, and there's an electrical current going through the flow cell. So as the DNA goes through, each different nucleobase makes a different current, which the device can read real time. And I have one that has a screen, or you can have it read real time onto your computer. So you can, without doing PCR, you can do qPCR with the machine, or you can get real-time sequences of it, and you can target genes while you're doing real-time sequencing. So I can, like, instead of doing what I just did and like having to extract a bunch of DNA from a bunch of cannabis plants and then amplify every single sample, I could have put all the samples into a nanopore sequencer and then put into my computer, target this gene, and it would have just kept reading that specific gene when it popped up through the sequencing. So like there's so many different applications. Like, I can go straight down into South America with a backpack and sequence like organisms as they're going extinct from like bulldozers coming down. Like day by day, like take one organism and like watch it get sequenced into my computer. Whereas like it was just like a size of this room for a sequencer and millions of dollars, and take somebody that has to go to school for 4 years to run it. And like, I taught myself how to do it in 2 years, but like that was because I was broke. If I had the money to do it and the time to be able to focus on it, I would have been able to figure that out in a couple months. So like the fact that it has like, it's that like user friendly, and it's that like anybody can like jump in to start using this, I think that once I figure out the protocols and make it a little bit easier, that in the next couple years we'll see so many people that are just on a citizen science level, just like out in their neighborhood sequencing stuff, finding organisms that just like lives in people's backyard in Maine, or like lives in somebody's backyard in like Baltimore or something like that, that doesn't live anywhere else. But like we would have never known because like nobody was able to study that kind of stuff. Even our own bodies, like people are able to now like read, like look at your blood or look at your spit like a couple times a month and be like, oh, you know, May 1st, 2021, I was really happy, and you know, these organisms were the most prominent in my body. Or like, you know, August 2018, like these organisms were prominent in my body, and I was a little bit depressed, and you know, catalog that kind of stuff. You can start to realize like how intricate these associations are, like beyond like what's just at the forefront of our perception.
Right.
Do you know the accuracy? Is it like?
It's just as accurate as Illumina or Sanger sequencing, way cheaper. Like damn near down to 10 cents a read. You can get 10,000 reads on a flow cell that's $600, but now they have smaller flow cells that are $90.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because we send out some of our samples. To
for like
lab,
like
and
$8 a sample or something.
Oh, I don't know. To do some of the DNA sequencing, it can be pretty expensive.
What are you doing, like more than just? Are you doing targeted gene sequencing, or are you doing like? Are you paying more than $8?
Well, I guess because they do when you're trying to like identify species, then you know they're picking the ITS gene. Like you have to target a specific gene to do.
So do you guys have PCR stuff in house, or do you send out?
No, we send out.
Oh, that's why it's more.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because if you send most of the lab's PCR product, it shouldn't be more than $8.
Oh yeah, if you're like
yeah. And that's what
sending out.
one of the big parts about the beginning of the year until I went down into Georgia, and then in March a research paper got released. But like the whole beginning of the year, I was developing a project to run the nanopore sequencer because, all right, before I have, there's so many different ways. I was trying to develop a project to run the nanopore sequencer to lower the cost of sequencing ITS barcoding lower than it's available on the market right now. And my math put it at like $3 or $4 per sequence. And I was like, yeah, this is gonna be awesome. I'm gonna figure this out. People are gonna geek. And then a research paper got published in March that was like, oh yeah, we got it down to 10 cents a sequence. And I was like, awesome. Like now I don't have to do the work. Cool. Like, you know what I mean? And now we can get into this. Now I don't have to prove to anybody that this was like not only did they prove they could get it down to affordable price, but they also proved the accuracy of it. So like that's what everybody was like. All my other friends that were molecular biologists, like I wanted somebody to talk about this with. Like I was desperately searching for people to talk about this with. That's why I ended up with Cordyceps. That's why I'm going to end up with the molecular biology stuff the same way I ended up with Cordyceps. Because I wanted somebody to talk to about it, and there was nobody. Like one or two homies, like just Ryan Gates from Terrestrial Fungi back in the day. Like I straight up was giving away free Cordyceps cultures. If I did that right now, I would have hundreds of orders. I get orders where people pay $30 for a culture every single day. And I used to give it away for free because I wanted somebody to talk to about it.
Right, yeah.
Because it helps
want
you
other
to
people
grow.
working with it, yeah.
Yeah, you know?
Yeah.
So like I really wanted people to talk to about it, and they're like, yo, the nanopore sequencing is not accurate, it's expensive, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm just like, yo, we just don't know how to use it yet. Like, I don't know what I saw in it. Maybe it's because I'm so spun all the time, but like, I watched this video of this guy, next gen scientist down in Ecuador sequencing reptile DNA as they were going extinct, like real time, and I was like, my tripped out brain was like, nobody knows how valuable this is, and I need to get involved with it because it's going to be the most valuable thing in the future. So I mean, I'm continuing rocking that wave, and it's putting me in good places.
I mean, it's kind of like analogous to say like, you know, the invention of the microscope or something. Like how transformative that was to microbiology. You know, just like we just couldn't see things, or like, and in that real time, in that something like that was easily accessible to so many people.
It's crazy to think how many new species will be discovered. Like, holy crap. Yeah, so many.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's insane amount of information to be discovered. I can't even. It makes me so excited to be alive. Like, my grandma told me when I was little, she's like, there's so much stuff to do in this world, you'll never ever be bored. She's like, you can never be bored. Like, I was like, all right, I believe you.
It was a good lesson learned.
Yeah.
Very exciting. So, I would love to ask you a little bit about this MycoFest thing you do down in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun, man. I would
It's
love
tight.
to be there.
Lou loves festivals.
Yeah, I
That's his
do love
jam,
festivals.
so.
Nothing like a good festival. So, with all of these other interests of yours, do they have a place at MycoFest, like algae and the insects and maybe other things? It's not just mushrooms.
Yeah, so I mean, MycoFest from the beginning has always been like a permaculture kind of vibe, like because that's been my whole vibe the whole time, and the whole reason behind MycoFest initially was to promote ecological literacy in the Mid-Atlantic area, because there wasn't events like that, and I desperately was trying to get to events like that. For my permaculture design certificate, I designed a non-traditional independent education system for people that weren't going to go to college to be able to continue their education in an affordable way that was real. And I did it by going to events like that, like my event. Like I'll go to like agricultural events or like plant festivals, mushroom festivals, whatever I could. Farming conferences and stuff like that. And I would go sit in these classes and I would write like papers, like I would write homework. Like I'll go home, I'll write a presentation about it, I'll go do it, and then I'll take pictures of what I do, and then I would
realize how unusual that is, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was on
It's
drugs,
amazing.
dude. I was fucking high. Like I was high and in love.
Yeah, that's great.
But yeah, so like, I mean, shit, that's the recipe, and people try to make that shit illegal. Like, but yeah. So I just did my homework, and then I started to afford it. I started making it real first, and then I would teach the people around my area how to do it, and I would make them pay me to so they could learn it. So then I could go take more classes, and all the classes were so expensive. I couldn't afford it. We had a baby. I was like 20 years old. I had to buy diapers and stuff like that. I was like making like $600 every 2 weeks serving tables. Like you can't live on that. Like it was like, what? Like my rent was more than $600 a month, and I was making $600 every 2 weeks. Like you can't live off of that. So, and I know lots of people that are somehow living like that. But we're almost out of the trap. We're gonna make sure everybody never gets stuck in that shit again. Yeah, so I was like, all right, MycoFest. Like, I wanted it, and it wasn't existent. That's where I became successful in my life always, by creating what I wanted that didn't exist. So I wanted to go to Telluride, and that shit was so expensive for somebody from Pennsylvania. When the ticket price like $300, you gotta buy a plane ticket, you gotta buy a hotel, you gotta buy food, all that kind of shit. And I was like, there's so many kids, there's so many homies in Philly, Baltimore, New York City, Pittsburgh, you know, and every single highway that connects those cities meets where I live. My town is where all of the highways meet in the turnpike. All of the highways converge right where my town is. That's why there's a military distribution center right there, because they can go. Pennsylvania touches every more states than any other state. You can go anywhere from right where I live, and I knew that you could get public transportation, Amtrak, Greyhound, everything right there. So I was like, any kid for like no bread can come to MycoFest, and I made it the cheapest festival in the whole United States for learning about that kind of stuff, and brought in educators that were like experts from everywhere. And I was like, all right, let's run it. And then a bunch of kids showed up, and like I've been watching them grow up. It's on, like, this year would have been the 7th year. It's the sixth festival, but like I've almost been a decade deep of watching like the 20-year-old generation grow up into the ecological marketplace that have been going to my festival to learn ecological literacy. So like that's what it's been about, and it's just homies chilling for 3 days, you know, getting spun, doing our thing, listening to music, live art, and classes all day. Like it's like straight focused on, like we get people loaded up on lines, man. Like last year we had like straight like bowls of or like before COVID, like 2018 or 2019, I can't remember. Last one's 2019. We had straight bowls of linesman capsules for everybody walking into the classrooms, for them to like get their brains functioning and on, like just like chaga tea flowing out of freaking fat.
My lines being tincture this morning, man.
Yeah, well, like it's just like we're here to create new realities and bring people, like we're here to push new realities heavily, like, because I don't want to wait so long. I know the brilliant future that I want to see in the world. I know exactly what I want to see in the world, and I'm going to show people that it's real right now so they can take it back home and then they can manifest it, so I don't have to go work on it because they're going to go do it. Then when I go travel somewhere, it'll be there for me to go see it. So it's a shellfish thing at the end of the day. But that's what MycoFest is.
That sounds like a good time. Kind of segueing off of that, you have this new community space you're working on too. That, like, I saw that you were doing like cannabis-based insulation.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the story there?
Long story, and some of it just doesn't need said. But I ended up having to leave my residence, you know, like 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And my residence also held my laboratory. It's the 11th time I've moved in the past like 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so I had to move my stuff, and I had just rented this space and was renovating it to be a community makerspace to do plastic recycling. I was going to set up machines for shredding up plastic, melting it, and then pressing it into injection molds, or running it through filament extruders to 3D print with it again. So I wanted to have a thing set up there for kids to come all day, throw plastic bottles in there and make toys. That was the vibe. Like, that was what I wanted to set up, and I wanted to be insulated with hemp. And I just wanted it to be open all day for kids to go in there and make toys. Like, that was all I wanted it to be. And then I had to leave my residence, and then I needed a place to put my lab into. So now it's my lab space. But I'm trying to keep it community vibes, so like, we got scientists that we trust, like citizen scientists from around the area coming in every day, like bringing in samples, you know, like people, like seriously people that I trust, because like I put that's my investment, like that's my life's work right there. And I lost a big portion of it when I was moving. Like, my culture library got left at the house, and it was dumped by the people that were there. So like, that was like 8 years of collecting stuff around the whole United States, lots of like looking under a microscope and pulling out single spores, hours while I was on probation, sober, like oh god, but like it's cool, everything's good. But yeah, so I just want to make sure everything's groovy, and you know, at this point it's like a real sensitive space. Where I'm trying to, well, not trying to, right now I'm succeeding in securing ownership of land, buildings, and resources so that nobody can take it away from me again. Because it's happened one too many times for generations.
Yeah.
So I'm here to take what's mine and make sure that it never happens to anybody again. Ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Make it happen. That's
Ever.
good.
Yeah, we're doing big stuff in this world. Like, we're going to impact this world in a way that impacts humanity forever. Otherwise, I wouldn't be alive. I know it. I feel it. And I want everybody else to recognize their own divinity and recognize their own purpose and realize that we're all here with that much purpose.
So do you think some of your biggest epiphanies came from mushrooms, from like being on psychedelic mushrooms?
From being on LSD.
LSD was the big one for you?
Yeah, psychedelic mushrooms made me feel like, when I was younger, it made me feel like really primal, really like an animal. And it always made me throw up and really made me grind my teeth a lot.
Yeah.
And for the doses that I needed for the mental therapies that I needed, because I had like, my life was a lot, like my parents, bless their souls, but like my life was crazy as shit, and like a lot of our lives were, but I needed some mental therapy. I needed some serious mental therapy that I couldn't afford, and but the tabs of acid were cheap, and they worked, so I ate a bunch of them. And they didn't make me puke a bunch, and they didn't make me clench my jaw, and they showed me science. And like what they showed me was, what they did was it brought me into the present moment. My attention was so diverted by so many things I watched when I was growing up. Like I wanted this and I wanted that and I wanted to be this person. And I was like, why do I want to be somebody else when William Padilla-Brown is the most beautiful person that I could have ever existed as? Like what am I searching for? Everything I could ever want is right in front of me. Like, that's what the acid did. I was like, whoa, everything is so cool, like, whoa, like, and then I'm just like, whoa, it's always like that.
Yeah.
Like, what made me forget? Like, who told me that my consciousness was just a conscience? Like, who told me that my consciousness was just a little voice in my head? It made me disassociate myself with myself. Like, that is me. Like, I brought it to the forefront, and I want more people to awaken that shit.
Yeah.
Cause like, otherwise you're just a zombie, perpetuating colonial zombie. Like, you're just living in a machine of dead old white people that came over here and perpetuating their will on the land without thinking, without listening to your own consciousness, without listening to your own conscience. I'm not doing that.
That sounds incredibly invigorating.
But yeah, I don't, my journey is my journey, and I don't recommend everybody go down the same path that I went down. You know, it's not everybody can handle all of that kind of stuff, you know? I mean, I've had people in my own family have like issues with almost committing suicide off of psychoactive substances.
Yeah.
And so like, it's not for everybody. And a lot of the things that we've seen in this world can really confuse us when you're brought into a situation as such, when you don't have the linguistic structures for that. Like, there's no parents telling you like, okay, you're gonna enter into this world, like, better watch out for the bad guys, better look both ways when you cross the street. Like, there was parents telling you that in this reality, but then you take the psychedelics and there was nobody like, look both ways when you cross the street. So like, you know, like, until there's somebody like that, I mean, I definitely recommend people like, you know, it's powerful stuff, right? I definitely recommend
It's nice
people
that that aspect is changing, you know,
Yeah.
just like with legalization efforts, that there's actually opportunities for like guided experiences and people to kind of like walk you through that
And
and be
there-
there to support you in that
There
state.
are some aspects that are also becoming, like you said, like some things are, you know, therapy is expensive and mental health is a huge issue, I think. But like, even, I know there's a free integration circle that with like psychedelics in Maine that
Oh,
I think
nice.
they meet like once a month or once a week.
That's powerful.
So that's really awesome. Yeah, there definitely are those things that exist, but you have to look for them.
Mhm.
And a lot of people just aren't aware, you know, it's like
Totally,
connecting
yeah,
people
yeah.
to those resources too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
There's
it's
a community for everything nowadays.
We're gonna
It's
have
a-
conversations about that in future live streams.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's I feel like it's interesting what you're saying, basically like awakening to everything that's around you. I feel like there is this very like almost childlike mentality that can like come back out. And in my pottery class the other week, someone asked what's the difference between like teaching adults and teaching children. she was like, the biggest difference is that when you compliment a child, they're just like, thanks! Like, yeah, my piece is awesome. And then when you compliment adults, they're just like, it's like not really what I wanted. Like, you know, we just lose this, like, I don't know. There's something, there's just something that happens where we're just like.
That is the biggest question. When? For everybody. If you can identify that for yourself, you can start working towards something different.
Yeah. Yeah, we just doubt ourselves.
Yeah.
So,
And kids don't. It's awesome. They're so confident.
on a much drier note, I just want to know, like, how do you manage your time and doing, how do you do all these different things? Like, do you have some, like, what are the tools that you use in your life to, to manage stuff?
This seems like this is coming out of your personal.
I mean, I'd love to know.
Teach
I'd love
get
to
some
use-
tips and tricks
Yeah,
for
I waste,
time
the amount of
management.
time that I waste, man, it feels like it's wasted.
I waste a lot of time. I have no method to my madness. If you want, it's like it's like a family thing. My mom has a TED Talk on procrastination, the art of procrastination.
Yeah.
You can look up Valerie Brown procrastination TED Talk. But it runs in the family. I have absolutely no idea. I just wake up and smoke lots of hash. Honestly, like I do that, and it keeps me like focused.
I don't think it works that way for everyone.
I know it
but-
doesn't. It's like 'cause
you're
my-
blessed in that regard.
Yeah, my brain is like freaking brrr, and it helps me to just like stay focused on what's in front of me, and I've surrounded myself. When I started Mycosymbiotics, I started it off of a trip that I had, and people, if you get tired of it, then you can go somewhere else, but I'm trippy. I started off a trip that I had, and I realized that homeostasis can only be achieved via symbiosis with local systems, both ecological and social. And doing that, I've created a hub around me, a circle around me of tools and friends, and friends both of all organisms, like humans, plants, mushrooms, and like I have all these tools around me. So like whenever if I the cicada thing, I didn't find that cicada, but I knew that they were out and my homie was out and I can't be out. So there's no I. There is no I. When people recognize individuality over collectivity and choose collectivity, I still am William Padilla-Brown. People should still identify me, but like I've chosen collectivity. So like my homies are an extension of me. There is no I. So like my homie was out because I couldn't be, and I was like, yo, we need the cicada. We need to research the cicada for humanity. I can't go get it, but I have the tools in the brain to figure out how to do the next steps. Can you get it for me? And he brought it over to the lab. He found one.
Mm-hmm.
He spent his time looking at cicadas all day because he had the time for it. And like my other homies back home culturing and sending out liquid cultures, so I can be here right now. So I can afford to be here right now. There's people surrounding me that are like allowing me to spend my time focusing on the things that I want to be focused on. Because I got the family support and the people around me, and I've recognized so much in myself and put it out for so long that the people have recognized it in me as well, and I've stepped up to the plate. So the community's there, the people are there, the ecology's there. I'm so familiar with the ecology on a broad scale around the whole country. I've spent the past 10 years traveling, not only just traveling to teach, but every time I travel to teach, I go to the dopest people's farms or the dopest mushroom nerds in the whole country. I've met all of them and I've chilled on their properties, and they grew up in those places, and they show me their watering holes and where they go swimming and where they go foraging and where they go to get the farmer's market. So everywhere I go in the country now, I can just be in that, and the tools are surrounding me, and the homies are surrounding me that are capable, allowing me to be higher consciousness all the time, and I don't have to worry about protecting myself or nourishing myself or maintaining myself anymore. The community is taking care of me because now I'm part of the mycelium, and I'm just as fed as every other cell that is part of the mycelium.
Whenever I go somewhere, I'm gonna have to hit you up and ask you who to contact.
Who to work with. Yeah.
I'm thinking if there's a way we can direct the conversation now more towards cordyceps and cordyceps cultivation, because we just a few days ago got started on a video which hopefully I'm not sure yet will be released, but it'll be very exciting when it does. So if there's anything you guys wanted to discuss about cultivation, I know you mentioned it was easy, and when we worked on the video, it kind of all made complete sense when you did it. So maybe talk about the process of it and your experience with cultivating cordyceps.
Sweet, yeah. The process is like, you just want to feed your babies. You got your organism growing, you got your Cordyceps mycelium growing, which now it's easier than ever to have like super jacked Cordyceps genetics, like Ryan Gage, Jeff Mangaro, like, I mean, I'm not sure who else, because like those are the homies, but I know other people are doing it now, and like I haven't been involved on the Cordyceps group like I used to, so I don't know who else is breeding on that level, but like Ryan and Jeff are putting out crazy genetics. Like you can just order online for like $30 and like get Cordyceps that just fruit. Like when we first started, it was like my first container, you can look on my YouTube, it produced like 2 mushrooms. Like not much came out of it, but it's like genetics, like wild, like, I mean, if you go out and clone wild and like you're planning on growing Cordyceps, you're probably like not gonna get far, because like I don't even know what the hell Jeff figured out, but like I get like 50, maybe 60% success rate on wild clones for fruiting. Like most of them, like half of them just won't fruit, and if they do fruit, they don't fruit well. Sometimes they do, and then maybe move on from there. But we're at this point where the genetics are very available now for commercial stuff. So really, all you gotta do is feed them. I mean, we found back in the day you could just feed them white rice and they'll grow. So it just like is a matter of like how potent do you want them to be, or how high you want your yields to go. And we have seen like research about like hyperproduction of certain medicinal molecules by feeding them certain things, which is in the book, which is released for free, volume 2. I'll probably put it in print again soon, but until then you guys can download PDFs. I'll put the link back up. But yeah, I put in recipes for hyperproduction in there, for medicinal compounds, and yeah, I mean, they just eat sterile rice, pretty chillin'.
The milk tech, I really want to try that. That's amazing. That's simple.
I was listening to the Mushroom Revival podcast too, and Alex Dorr mentioned that the two of you tried to inoculate a hard-boiled egg.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, there's been a lot of experiments. Yeah, a lot of experiments along the way. I was just replicating a lot of stuff I saw online, and then I just like got to the point where I was comfortable with it and started feeding them all sorts of stuff. And what's most sensible for people is just whatever grain is cheap and local and available to them. I mean, like for some reason corn makes them fat. It's like maybe symbolic.
In general.
Yeah, but wild rice I saw really good yields from, but it's expensive. But it can be harvested in certain parts of the United States, so it could be feasible.
We have access to a little bit of grain.
Yeah, a little bit.
A lot of definitely millet and wheat.
Yeah, they grow well on it. Well, millet
things.
is like when you harvest the cordyceps, the millet gets stuck all on the bottom. So unless you just want to trim the bottoms off, it's like hard to get the bottom stuff off. But if you take scissors to the bottom of cordyceps, it makes it bruised black. But if you just pick it, it doesn't. I don't know why. Maybe it's like the pressure on it. I don't know why. But I don't like the when it's all bruised black on the bottom. But I do like a nice bottom, clean bottom, for whenever I'm presented with the cordyceps. That's a whole nother tier of things. We'll get down to the etiquette once people figure out how to grow them. But like when I'm presented with the cordyceps, if there's grains in my bag of cordyceps as a consumer, I'd be upset. But like the consumers that like literally have no experience yet, so like you get what you get, and then you gain levels of understanding. But like I mean, there's nuances of even receiving cordyceps and understanding like, oh, how I can look at a cordyceps somebody gave me and be like, all right, this is like weeks old. Like a bag of if I was to buy a bag of cordyceps online, I could be like, yo, this is weeks old. Like this was grown on this. Like smell it. Like it doesn't smell too strong. Like should have like a intense like cheesy like freaking like damn near like artificial buttery popcorn smell to it.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, we're evolving.
Yeah.
We're evolving, and like I really want to help to develop the what is it? I don't know, like the myco sommelier, like the people that develop the because everybody's just like, oh, it tastes like mushrooms, but it's just like like somebody that doesn't know anything about wine, they drink the wine, oh, it just tastes like a red, oh, it just tastes like a white. But like somebody else would be like, oh, I could taste that it was in an oak barrel, and like the soil was acidic this year, and it rained like twice in February or something. Like, you know what I mean? But like there's that levels to mushrooms. Like, it's not just, oh, it just tastes like earthy, it just tastes like mushrooms. Like, nah, like I just told you, like that thing tastes like, smells like buttery popcorn, like not just buttery popcorn, like artificial buttery popcorn, like that fake flavor from the movie theaters. Like, that's what it smells like. Like, key in on those things, because those are associated with different compounds. Like,
Sure.
you know, I think that humans are the ultimate scientific tool designed by nature, and like we have the most epic analytical equipment, and it's like our face. Like, I can smell and taste something, and like the flavor and the smell I'm getting is literally telling me the percentage of the compounds that is entering my nose cavity and in my face. Like, if only I discerned myself, if only I refined myself enough to do that. But like, you know, where's the accuracy in that? When some human refines themselves enough to like be like, you know, take a rip of weed and be like, oh, this is, you know, 15% THC, you know, like 0.2% CBD, and it has this many terpenes in it. Or like, you know, eats a mushroom and be like, you know, this cordyceps has like maybe like 8% of cordycepin, and I'm feeling maybe like, you know, 3% cordymin. Like, I think that that's possible. It just takes somebody being sensitive, but we're so desensitized. We literally spend our whole days desensitizing ourselves, like putting all sorts of things in our face that just is like overpowering, like coffee and cigarette smokes and like all sorts of things, and like watching porn and blasting your brain with like the most crazy colors and lights and like sugar all day. Like, and then you want to be able to feel something. Like, what? Like, you just like blasted all of your nervous system to like all hell, and then like expect to feel something inside of you. Like, we're all so externalized. Like, people can't even tell when they're like constipated or like having like a heart palpitation, because they can't even, then nobody's ever put their attention inside of themselves. Like, how many people are like a whole adult and like has never like spent time to meditate and focus inside? Everybody's always accepting what's out there.
Yeah, I was just checking out a book, you know, Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese. There's this Vietnamese monk. I mean, he's like the father of mindfulness. So if you don't know this guy, it's like how do you spell it? It's Thich Nhat Hanh, and I forgot how to spell it. But he has a bunch of books and has been around for decades and decades, pumping out knowledge about mindfulness and internal exploration and meditation. It's really cool.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. If you just like look up like mindfulness Vietnamese monk, you'll get him.
Sweet.
He's like the guy. So it's very cool. Yeah, I hear that.
I feel like in terms of like discerning differences between things, so much of it is like what you have to experience too. You know, like I just think there's so many instances where, like you were talking about, like going to the store and just getting like the cheapest eggs or something, where it's like you may only have like one of something that you're used to or exposed to, but to like be able to experience like cordyceps grown on this versus this versus this versus this, that like diversity of what's out there, and the more you can experience that, the more you can like slowly start to discern it. I think I love that stuff actually. Like, I've gotten into it more with like apples and making cider recently, and like just picking wild apples all over the place and being like, well, this year and this tree and this, you know, and it's all about just like experiencing things and thinking about them while you're experiencing them. You know, being aware of what you're experiencing.
Yeah. Just full-on consciousness. We're designing a whole new cosmology of consciousness. We're designing a whole new linguistic structure around consciousness to engage with consciousness in a whole new way. Like, what is something in reality without the linguistics for it? Like, there's whole cultures that their language has no words for time or no words to describe another person. Like, so what is their reality that they're perceiving? In order to create and perceive these realities that we want, we need to design this, and that's what we're doing.
And the
here.
language around it.
I mean, shoot, how many people are on these live stream listening to all this crazy shit we've been talking about? Like, this is awesome.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. So back to taking a couple steps back. It's a shame we don't have this brood going nuts of cicadas here in Maine. Yeah. But besides the fungus that everybody talks about that appears on the cicadas that I guess contains psilocybin, is that what there's like
two different versions of it, and I don't like, I say versions because I don't even understand what's like. There's probably a more scientific term than versions. Like, there's not versions of an organism, but
are they different species?
It might be. I'm not sure. There's two different masses of Spora. One produces an amphetamine called cathinone, and one of them produces psilocybin. But it makes the cicadas go nuts and like makes their butts fall off, both of them.
Yep.
And then there's just
Sure
a
does.
spore mass, and then they go mate with anything.
So, will like these cicadas, since there's a lot of them, will that increase cordyceps? Are there cordyceps growing on those?
I did find the cordyceps growing on cicada 2 years ago. And there has been other people that find different fungus on cicadas, not the Massospora. And the fungus that I found on the cicadas wasn't ever identified by anybody, and my DNA skills weren't as up to par as they are now whenever I did that, and I didn't succeed in identifying it ever, and I don't have the culture anymore.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something we really haven't worked with, like cordyceps or insect like pathogens, symbionts, anything like that. Really, it'd
I
be
munched
the
on some
whole.
cordyceps.
I would love to even just go like try
That's about
to
it.
find more what's growing around here.
I mean, I
Start
wouldn't I wouldn't mind coming back. Like maybe I'll check my dates from the time that I found a cordyceps last time. Maybe like a week before then, and exploring. I'm supposed to be back in October, but I think it's too cold around here. Then is it? I don't know.
No, it's
there-
good mushrooming, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
around
absolutely.
So I don't know with
I don't know
cordyceps.
about
Like, what's
yours.
the
Yeah,
seasonality
You got
look
lots
like
of
for
stuff in
that?
October.
Cordyceps is like for me in Pennsylvania. It's starting like next week.
Okay.
Like and
Might
then
not
it
be
goes.
So
it
probably
goes
a little bit
until
later
October.
here,
Yeah.
I would think.
It's
Yeah.
like low 40s at night.
If it goes through October there, I'm sure.
Yeah, they
here,
like
too.
hot
Yeah,
days and cool
October's-
nights.
yeah.
But like I mean, they like hot days and they're midsummer much. Like August is like
Yeah.
boom, like hot summer days, hot summer nights. But like I found them at like high altitude North Carolina, like where it's real cold at night. Like they have a large distribution. So I mean, I found them here, so they grow here. So it's just like I don't know, lots to explore.
Yeah,
Lots to explore.
It's a funny feeling finding stuff and then like years later you find out what it was sometimes and you're like, oh, like
Yeah,
whoa, I think I found that.
that's why I like
Once
doing
upon a
the.
time. I had no idea what I was looking at. Yeah.
That's why I like doing the culture collection, and I really fell in love with the cryopreservation stuff after I did the algae research here in Booth Bay. And understanding that we were working with cultures that somebody found in a puddle like in the 70s and just kept it because they were interested and passionate about it, but then like somebody like maybe last year found out that like, yo, that algae is so beneficial for this, but like we didn't know until we had modern science to understand it, and like y'all have it because man found it in a puddle in the 70s. So like,
Right.
let's culture whatever we can and put it in cryo tanks because science is going to be so much more advanced, and everything's going to we don't
Right,
if
that's-
we don't figure it out.
You need
You know
that
what I mean?
benchmark, right?
Yeah.
The benchmark to
How
be
we
able
supposed
to like
to
understand.
Yeah, and like I think and like this is where it gets a lot like real radical for other people too. But I think mycelium is like such a good tool for biomimicry. I think it's like for like how to like plant culture made more sense to me. Like doing like plant cell culture made more sense to me because of mycelium. And I think that something similar can be done with mammals. I mean, like people are working with molecular stuff with mammals. Have even cloned that freaking goat or cloned the sheep. But they had an issue with the sheep because when they cloned it, the new baby sheep's DNA was as oxidized as the original one. So the baby sheep was born 6 years old, oxidized DNA. So it only lived the lifespan of it if it was already 6 from the time it was born. It started getting old.
Was like Dolly.
I think it was something like that, yeah. But I feel like we're figuring out the DNA stuff, and I'm talking to my kid about DNA. I'm showing my kid DNA. Like he's seeing me do this. Like his perception and understanding of this is gonna be way beyond anything I could fathom.
Do you think
So,
he'll
like,
follow with the science? Does he want to?
Even if he doesn't, his linguistic structure and his understanding around it is better.
Yeah.
Like I don't care if it doesn't matter what he wants to do in his life. His understanding of of reality is different.
Yeah.
Like when he goes into the woods, is like I didn't go into the woods. I didn't go hiking until I was 18. He's been in the woods his whole life. He the way he sees it is way different than me. I can't even understand it. Like,
Yeah.
and he's just a kid living his life. He doesn't know. He's not thinking about it.
Right.
You know, but he like it's in there. Like his pattern recognition is like insane. I can't even keep up. I don't know. I really don't know. My brain has been so perverted by other people's ideas for 18 years before I got that. Like
Yeah, I think about that with my nephew. He's 3.5, and like he lives in Chicago. He never goes in the woods, with
Yeah.
his parents. I need to get him to Maine, as much as possible.
I mean, any little, like, for kids, like, they're young and they're, like, going through, like, neuroplasticity, so, like, any, like, really significant experiences can, like, form real brain structures and real brain connections. Like, that's why I'm so excited to get my kid out here. Like, he's out here having so many experiences that are, like, forming the way he views the world and forming the way his brain functions for the rest of his life. Like, I'd much rather him being following me around wherever I go than being, like, wake up, go to school, go to bed, do homework, like wake up, go to school, go to bed, do homework. I talked to all my friends that did that, and they can't remember their childhood. I can clearly, to dates, like I could tell you, like, like freaking December 2004, I was in London playing Harvest Moon on Game Boy Advance. Like, I can remember, like, significant moments in my life down to the dates, like, because my life was never ever a pattern. Like, it was never ever like a repeat pattern. It was always like new experiences. It's probably why my brain works the way it does. Like, I never stopped. Like, I never was like in a schedule ever. Like, more than like for like one school year. Never for more than one school year was I ever in the same pattern.
Yeah.
So like,
it's interesting. I've often had that thought, like with novel experience and travel, where you'll spend like a month like in some place new or something, and that amount of time feels so long. Like, it's like every time you have a new experience, it's like time just moves so much slower. And then thinking about how, like, you think of, like, when you're young, like, you can remember summers feeling like endless, and then as you get older, it's like, oh my god, 3 years are gone. But probably it's like when you're young, everything's novel, so like you're just experiencing all these new things. It's probably almost more tied to new experience.
Well, that was talked about with COVID, where people were just like not having any experience, so they were just no like memories. People are just like, what the hell happened
what did
the
I do
past
this
year?
year? Yeah.
It's like, I didn't do
Was that 3 years ago? Was that in May? Yeah.
I remember spending so much time, like, I would skip school and like learn about weed at home because, like, it was more interesting than school. I mean, I told people I dropped out of school because it was interfering with my education. And like, I remember watching these like old hippie videos, like black and white videos, or just like random, like, just like, we've all watched something like that. They like do like the whole play the Beatles, and they're like, oh, the hippie era, and like they did this, and it shows people protesting or whatever. And I remember one of them specifically was like, cannabis alters your user's perception of time. And I'm like, what? I'm like, wait, what? There's something that could change the way you see time? I'm like, because like that used to geek me out so hard at school. I'd be like, why does time move slow at the end of the day when I'm ready to leave? Like, why does time move fast when I'm happy? Like this is before I even did any substances. Like, I was just sober. Like, I got kicked out of Catholic school for asking weird questions like that shit. Like, I'm just like, why? Like, why can I control it? Like, I was like really like figuring out weird brain stuff when I was in high school. I was like I'm gonna make myself happy and like watch the time differences and stuff like that. I was like doing weird shit like that. And like, whenever I found out that cannabis could do that, and I was like, whoa, like, not like, this is like really changing. Like I'm learning more stuff in less time. Like, I was like, all my friends are the same age as me, but I've thought more than they have because I've been experiencing more time, like my time differently. And then I started doing the L, and I was like, oh shit, I just went to the end of the beginning of time. Like, good luck. Y'all are still thinking that you're 26. Like, not realizing that you're an infinite being.
You're 1,000.
Like, all the information is accessible always. People be like, yo, how do you know? I'm like, I am nothing. Like, there is no I. Like, there's like a freaking living universe. Consciousness is all connected. Like, it seems so simple to even say it out of my mouth because I've seen it, because like I experience it. But like, it sounds like I knew. When I started my business, I also started it because I didn't want to be the guy on the side of the road with the cardboard sign that says the most righteous shit you ever seen, but nobody believes you because you're on the side of the road and you have nothing to show for it. So I was like, I'm gonna go get real wealthy and become really successful in doing this, and then I'll hold up the cardboard sign. Motherfuckers will believe me because I'm successful.
So we've only got a few minutes left in our live stream, so I didn't know if there's any final thoughts you wanted to discuss before we close up today.
I mean, it'd be cool. I mean, there's a lot, man. I mean, you do a lot of things, and it's really cool to have you.
I'll be back.
Yeah, absolutely. There was like a more like nitty gritty thing that I think is super interesting that a lot of people don't understand, and I would love to hear more about. Just senescence with Cordyceps. If you want to speak on that for a minute, that'd be really cool.
I really want to start looking at this genetically. So Cordyceps senesce in like 9 months. It's faster than any other mushroom. Like I've had some people like get like a second year out of it, but like for some reason from the time of germination, like from spores germinating together, or like from wild culture, for some reason we can't get them to last longer than 9 months, even in fridge and stuff like that. But I haven't brought the cryo in, so like we're gonna do cryo. I haven't done Cordy's on cryo, so like I'm gonna do Cordy's on cryo, and then that should work. But like I don't know why it senesces so fast, and senescence is like a human becoming senile. It's like you're losing your faculties. You're not capable of perpetuating yourself in the reality any longer, and it
Menopause.
Yeah, it just won't. It won't even produce any stroma anymore.
Pause.
Yeah, mushroom. Yeah, it won't produce. It won't. It'll pause producing stromas. Yeah, it'll just grow only vegetative. It'll only grow mycelium. I don't know why. Like I've heard people talk about like reinvigorating them with younger strains, younger cultures, or like all sorts of interesting things. But like I think there has to be a there has to be a genetic link. Like there has to be something genetically that's like a genetic clock, a genetic timer. Like there has to be something associated with it that's like it turns off or turns on, and then it stops fruiting. Like,
well, because the mycelium will still grow, but it just won't produce fruiting bodies. So I wonder if it's something that's like epigenetic too, or it's like because it's not like it totally dies.
Well, I mean, like their life cycle is like they're not like a oyster mushroom that lives in a tree for a couple years. Like you know what I mean? Like they live on a bug once and it's done. You know?
Right.
So it's like. And the rest of their life is so cryptic. Like they morph into soil molds and stuff. Like they don't even live their whole life cycle as the same organism. Like they change their body, their sexual reproduction, everything. Like
well, I feel like parasitic fungi are crazy because I did some research on that in college, and it's just like crazy how specific they are, and just like the coevolution that happens between things. It's just like very mind-blowing.
Yeah. We are so fortunate. We are all so fortunate to be able to talk to each other and understand what each other is saying.
Yeah.
Like, golly.
It's all cool stuff, man. It's really fun to talk about.
Yeah,
so like cool
definitely.
is like not a good enough word. Yeah.
Wow.
No, it's
wow. Wow.
So I'm thinking we should.
I'm sober, by the way, guys.
I'm
I'm like chilling. This is just me by myself. Nothing.
I think we should wrap up here, but why don't you talk a little bit about where people can find you after this live stream?
Cool. Yeah, check me out on Instagram at Mycosymbiote, Mycosymbiotics. It's Cosmic Music. You can check me out on YouTube. It's Cosmic. You can check me out on YouTube at Apex Grower for educational stuff. All the It's Cosmic stuff is for like hip hop music that's like psychedelic themed. And then mycofest.net for the festival, or mycosymbiotics.net for just, honestly, that website is just a black hole of nothingness. Like, you might find a couple pictures of me in an empty calendar. I do not know. You ask how I keep up with my schedule? I don't. I just do what I'm interested in. I like, that's it. Yeah, that stuff doesn't interest me. But, yeah, I'm working on having some more administrative stuff, so hopefully. And then, yeah, I think that's it. You know, TikTok if you're into that kind of stuff. I don't really do much on there besides post videos so that I get attention from Vice and BuzzFeed and stuff like that. But yeah.
Cool. And yeah, we're gonna keep trying to do these live streams. I think today was a little different time, but on Wednesdays, and we're gonna be having or releasing a Cordyceps cultivation video soon that we did with Will, and so you should definitely check that out. I think that'll be really helpful to people interested in that. And I'm hoping we can do more collab stuff going forward too.
I'm gonna be back in October for sure. So
yeah,
let's run something up.
Go try to